What's going on? I'm Illegal Mist, and today we're looking at Dungeon Diver's points per stage for the new hard mode stages, as well as a calculator that I created to see all of the details for dungeon tournaments and events, to see whether or not you're able to complete them with free-to-play energy. Let's get right into it. To determine how much energy we need for each dungeon diver or dungeon tournament that we're completing, we first need to know the probability of the drop rates for each of the artifacts that we can get. Each stage has different probabilities for their drop rates, so I was able to go into Hell Hades' website, so huge shout out to them for providing all of the drop rate percentages. After we figure out the probability of each drop rate for each artifact, rank, and rarity, we also need to figure out how many points that we get for each of those items. So in the game, they have the Dungeon Diver's points based on the rank and rarity for each item, and I have that here. I was able to take the probability for each rank and rarity of each item, as well as the amount of points that it gets us, and get the estimated points per run that we have for each stage. So for stage 20, we average about 12.16 points per run, coming out to an average of 0.76 points per energy that we spend for stage 20. For stage 25, we can see it's about 12.82 points per run that we average, but because the runs cost more energy, it comes out to 0.64 points per energy that we get. So stage 20 is more efficient than stage 25, which we all knew, but I was also able to go in and do this for the hard mode stages as well. For stage 10 hard, we average about 13.57 points per run, and it comes out to 0.68 points per energy that we have. So while not as efficient as stage 20 normal, it's more efficient than stage 25 normal. After we figure out our average points per energy, we can figure out the average amount of energy that it'll take us to complete Dungeon Divers events. For the Razelvarg Fusion, it costs 2,850 points to complete the Dungeon Divers event for the first Dungeon Divers. In order to do that, we need about 3,748 energy if we're doing stage 20 normal, and if we're doing stage 25 normal, it'll take us about 4,444 energy. So we can see the difference between those stages is almost 700 energy that we need. So stage 20 is significantly easier and more efficient to use than stage 25 on normal. But if we're looking at the hard mode dungeons, we can see for stage 10 hard, it costs us 4,200 energy instead of that 4,444 for stage 25 normal. So again, it's more efficient to do stage 10 hard. It also gives us higher drop rates and better gear, but it costs more energy than it does for stage 20 normal. So we have a big spreadsheet with a bunch of numbers on it for our Dungeon Divers points, and comparing the stages between stage 10 hard and stage 20 normal, and whatever stages that you want. But it's a little bit tricky to look at and determine exactly how much energy we're saving by doing another stage over another. So I went in and I created a little calculator for us to look at it. I also went in and did the same thing for the dungeon tournaments that we have, as the Dungeon Divers and dungeon tournaments have different points for each rank and rarity item that we receive. For simplicity's sake, I went in and I made a stage comparison tool so that you can go in and you can look at each stage and determine how much energy you're going to save if you do one stage over another. All you need to do is change it to whatever stage you want to compare to another. So for this example, we can compare stage 20 normal to stage 1 hard, and we can see for a Dungeon Divers event that costs 2,850 points, it saves us about 670 energy if we do stage 20 normal as opposed to doing stage 1 hard. Now, if we compare stage 20 normal, which is considered the best bang for our buck as far as energy, to stage 10 hard, we can see it's 452 energy. So stage 1, 670, stage 10 costs 452. So pretty significant savings if you're able to do stage 10 hard as opposed to stage 1 hard. Alternatively, stage 25 normal is the worst points per energy, so that one costs us almost 700 energy. So if you can do stage 10 hard, but you can also do stage 25 normal, you'll save yourself, on average, almost 300 gems by just doing stage 10 hard instead of stage 25 normal. We also have the comparison for the dungeon tournaments as well below, so that you can compare those numbers and see which one gives you better energy. So now that we're able to go in and we're able to compare the amount of energy that we need for each stage, I wanted to see whether or not it's actually free-to-play accessible to be able to complete these fusions with only the energy that you get on a daily basis. To get that calculation, I first needed to figure out how much energy on average we get per day. To determine the amount of energy that we get in a day, we first need to look at the amount of energy that we can acquire. We can get 440 energy just by completing our daily and advanced quests, as well as our playtime rewards. Every other day, we get an appreciation pack, which will give us 130 energy because it gives us 1 refill. And if we divide that by 2, we get about 65. If our energy is never capped, we passively regenerate energy at a rate of about 20 energy per hour. Over the course of a day, we get 480 energy passively just by doing that. We can also look at things like our weekly and monthly rewards that we get, which comes out to about 65 energy per day based on the 260 energy we get every 5 days for the weekly quests and the 400 energy that we get from completing our monthly quests. The clan shop also rotates between energy and 3-star chickens every week. So if on average we get energy in the shop every other week, it'll give us 1000 energy for every 14 days, which comes out to about 71 energy per day. We can also get energy from 3v3 at a rate of 300 energy for every 7 days. Now those last few examples are ways that we can get energy passively without spending money in the game, but it's also ways that we get bulk amounts of energy, so it's not the best when determining our average energy that we get per day. Using the first examples of our playtime rewards, daily and advanced quests, as well as passive regeneration of energy, we get about 985 energy per day. If we were to go in and say our average energy from all areas of the game, as far as ways that we can 100% get it, comes out to about 1165. Neither of these totals include things like event and tournament rewards, as well as things like Doom Tower or other promo codes that Raid provides us. So this is only ways that you're 100% able to get energy. So now that we have our daily energy that we can get, we can determine whether or not these dungeon divers and dungeon tournaments can actually be completed on time without having to use our gems or other energy resources. For this calculation, all we need to do is change whatever stage we want to farm, the amount of days that the event or tournament is active, and we can also change our point requirements over here. So for the first example, we can look at the dungeon divers currently going on for the Razzlevarg fusion, and we know that it takes 2850 points to be able to get the rare. If we're farming stage 25 and it's a 3-day event like this current one, we can see that it's not possible to do this with our average daily energy. The amount of energy that we're short by is 1489, which comes out to about 458 gems. So in order to complete the dungeon divers on stage 25, you'd need about 458 gems or 1489 energy from other resources. Now, stage 25 is the least efficient, so if we went to a stage like stage 10 hard, we can see it would cost us about 383 gems instead of the amount that we needed for stage 25 normal. So for the most optimal setup on stage 20 normal, getting the amount of dungeon diver points that we need in our 3-day dungeon divers event, which this one currently is, it's not possible to do this without getting energy from other areas of the game. We're short about 800 energy, so we're not able to complete the dungeon divers without going in and actively changing how we provide ourselves with energy. Over the course of this current fusion, we have 3 different dungeon divers events, and I would venture to say that the other ones might even be more difficult than this one. But if they're all the same as this one, it will cost us almost 750 gems to complete the fusion. This is a pretty big number, especially if you're farming higher stages of dungeons. For myself, I want to farm stage 10 hard as much as possible, but I'll realize that it comes out to 383 gems for every dungeon divers event on average. If I'm doing all 3 of the dungeon divers events, I can go in and do the math right here and see that it costs me almost 1150 gems to be able to complete all 3 of the dungeon divers events. So I need to make sure that I have energy from other areas of the game to be able to supplement so that I don't have to use over 1000 gems to complete the fusion. For the dungeon tournaments, we can also see if we have a 3-day dungeon tournament event and we're farming stage 10 hard, we're able to complete that event with the average energy that we get in a day as long as we're min-maxing our energy. We actually have a surplus of 300 energy, so we could use that energy and farm other areas of the game. So dungeon tournaments are much more free-to-play accessible than the dungeon divers events, but if they change their point requirements for it, then it would be much more difficult for us to achieve it. So feel free to look down in the description, click on the link for this sheet, and you guys can go in, and depending on what dungeon divers or dungeon tournament is going on, the point requirements for them, the stage you're farming, all of that sort of stuff, you can go in and see how many gems you'll need or how much energy you'll have to stockpile before that event goes live. That's all I've got in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I'll make sure to link the spreadsheet in the description below as well so that you all can change it, whether you're using it for the Razzlevarg fusion or the fusion for some champion that hasn't come out yet. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.